8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Project X Show. I'm your host, Ben Gothard, and today we have the honor of speaking with Dan Meadors, a genius in the Amazon space who has not only been crushing it himself, but has also turned to the education side, where he has taught people, his students, how to also make a ton of money selling on Amazon. And I believe I read a statistic that your students have collectively sold, what was it, $500 million?
Yeah, we've recently surveyed our students, and we have we've had 3,500 students over the course of the years, and we had 421 responses to that survey, and the total of those sales was over $500 million. So I'm sure between all of the group, we've well broken that $1 billion mark, but it's still just pretty amazing to hear that much having that much effect in general.
That's incredible. The amount of wealth that you have created in the world is just insane. So I want to start it off by asking you, first and foremost, what is your story?
Sure, man. No, it's kind of a wild start. We started back in 2011, and it all started one day. Me and Eric worked at the same company, and our CFO came in one day, and he turned in his resignation. And we were like, whoa, man, like, what's going on? Because this guy, he had a 6-figure plus salary in, Nowheresville, Kentucky. We have a population of 7,000 people. Like, this is not a place where 6-figure jobs just grow on trees. And when I started talking to him, he was like, yeah, man, he's like, I sell on Amazon part-time. And I just make more money doing it part-time than I do coming into work. And that was, at the time, that was just mind blowing that it had that kind of capability. And I was like, so how do you do it? And he told me about retail arbitrage. Like that's one of the models for Amazon. And he kind of took us out to a store, and he showed me this one toy, and it was $3 on the shelf. And I used the little Amazon scanner thing, and it was selling for $16. And I was like, whoa, man, that's so crazy. Cause I'm sitting here looking at 10 of these things. And it's like, why in the world would anybody ever pay $16? Like when they could just go to Walmart and get it for $3. And he was like, because they're not at every Walmart, man. It's just, if you want that one toy for your kid and you come in and it's sold out, like, where do you go to get it if you really want to get it for them? It's like, you have to just pay whatever it costs, right? And I was like, so that made sense. So me and Eric ended up buying those Disney cars, taking them home. We created our first little Amazon shipment. And literally the first day that it hit the warehouse, every single one of them sold. And for us, that was like, that was the proof of concept. It was like, wow, I don't know why it works. I don't really get it, but it works. It clearly works. So we didn't have a lot of money at the time. Like Eric had some, he had pretty poor credit. He was kind of careless in college. And, I didn't really have any credit at all. Like I just had never had a credit card, had never had loans or anything like that. So we started out with a little $600 credit card because it was all we could get approved for. And we would just go to Walmart and max out our credit card, take it and ship it into Amazon. And within 6 months, we just doing that, just with the same $600 credit card, maxing it out, paying it off. We got to the point in December that we did $50,000 in sales in December. And at that point, it was like, wow, I mean, this is just nights and weekends, man. And we actually have money to go spend now. Like, we should probably give this a go. Like, so ultimately that's what we did. We tried to give the Amazon thing a go. And it was a little more hiccupy than we thought. And it was because we didn't realize we were in December, and that's $50,000 in sales in December is not, you're not going to get that same kind of sales volume at other times of the year. So, we did make a mistake. We were a little bit earlier. We left, and did it a little bit earlier than we probably should have. But, that year we were just super bootstrapped. I mean, we were out there shopping every day. We'd shop 5 days a week and can come home and ship products because, the closest Target to me is an hour and a half away. So like we were constantly having to drive to other cities to shop and stuff like that. So, but it was really, really taxing. Like we made great money. But at the end of that first year, we did about $1 million in sales. But it was, that was 60 and 70 hour weeks just out there. And we did that for a few years. And ultimately, but the problem that we kind of came to was that we realized that, what we had done is we created some really high paying jobs. Like past that, like every time we stopped working, every time we stopped going to stores, our sales would drop. We didn't have, and, it wasn't a real business. So that's how we started that transition to wholesale is I wanted to be home with my kids. Eric wanted to be home with his kids more. And we wanted to have a business that didn't just stop every time we stopped working, and eventually started that transition to wholesale in 2015.
And what happened after that?
For sure. Yeah. So yeah, whenever we got there, and we made some goofy mistakes along the way. It was kind of crazy. We were trying to find businesses that would give us, income throughout the year that didn't mean that we had to be out in a store, right? Like just something that would work for us. So we tried to start a little toy store, and ultimately it failed, but we have 7,000 people. There's not enough foot traffic to sustain it. And, we sold that little toy store, and then we started a website, for My Little Pony collectibles. And it was really because my daughters and Eric's daughters were into My Little Pony. And then we watched this documentary about how grownups were into My Little Pony too. And we were like, whoa, that's crazy. We could just sell My Little Pony stuff. And, it wasn't the space we wanted to be in really. And we ended up selling that website. And just nothing seemed like it stuck for us. And we were always out working. And then we started with wholesale. And, we started that same traditional route that most people do. Like if you look up information, most people tell you, just Google wholesalers, find distributors and that kind of stuff. Well, that failed for us, like horribly failed. We would spend hours and hours and hours contacting all these people. They would send us these enormous catalogs. You're sitting there looking for anything to find a sale. And it was just, you would find 3 items, spend 7 hours and find 3 items that you could make money with. And it's just like, what in the world's going on? And then we went to a show and we're introverted, and the show didn't go very well. And we just lost a bunch of money there. And then kind of like dejectedly, we landed back in our office, and it was, I'm sitting here looking at this product on Amazon. I was like, gosh, that's what I want. I don't want to go through these giant catalogs. I just want to carry that product right there. It's like, how do I do that? So we decided we would call the manufacturer and just ask them who carried that product. And they were like, yeah, we could just sell that to you, man. Like we can just set up an account and you could just work with us. And it's like, oh, wow. Like literally everything we had read, literally every single thing we had read, that was, nobody had mentioned that it was that easy. Right. And so ultimately we set up an account, and that was our first real wholesale product. And then, that model kind of evolved, and our second call didn't go quite as well. Like the guy, we talked to him, and he was like, yeah, I don't see any reason I would want to work with you guys. Like, I have 4 great sellers on my listing right now. They're doing a good job. I don't see why, I don't see why I need to take sales from them. And it was kind of one of those things, right? I didn't have a giant war chest of money even at this point to be able to be like, all right, if you're willing to work with me, I'm willing to place a 50. I didn't have the money to do that. So I talked to, I was just really candid, and I was like, hey man, I can see a bunch of growth opportunity on your product. Like, I know you got some great sellers, and I'm sure that they do a great job, but the fact of the matter is you still have a lot of potential that they're not tapping into. Like, look at your listing, just go with me right now and look at it. And he was on the phone with me, and for whatever reason he did, he did invest it because he cared about his brand. And we're sitting there going through, and it's like, if you optimize here, if you include better search terms into your title, like you're going to get more traffic, your product's going to do better. If you improve some of your pictures, like it's going to increase your conversion and your sales ranks and things like that will start going up. You'll get more organic traffic from the conversion. If you put a better review strategy in place, like you'll get more reviews, you'll get better reviews. And it was just like, and I'm sitting here telling them all these things, and I was like, for what it's worth, man, I don't care if you work with me or not. I think you have a really, really cool product, and I would love to help you out. And, but I was like, for what it's worth, here's the difference in me and the companies that you're talking about that we're currently representing you. You're just a number to them. You're number one, you're number 100 to one of these bigger companies, but to me, you're the most important person I can be working with. Like I'm the owner of the company. This is my cell phone. You can literally call me if anything ever breaks, and I'll take care of it because you're my number one guy, man. And it's like, that's why, if that's any appeal to work with me, that's it. And if not, you should take these things and talk to your sellers. And the guy was like, no, seriously, man, I've never seen anybody just be that giving with information. And that's where our model really got kicked off. And to this day, that's how we acquire vendors. Is we don't try to just go out there and place large orders and try to push for crazy discounts and stuff like that. We try to develop real relationships where we add value and grow together. And it's just been a super successful model for us.
When did you make the transition into teaching and helping other people start their own Amazon journey?
For sure. No, it's a kind of a great story because, around the same time, me and Eric, that was our first employees. We also hired our first employees around that late 2015 date. And whenever we hired those first employees, we poured all of our energy into them. We made sure to teach and just show them everything we could. And what that did is it gave us a lot more free time. And it gave us a lot more time to work on our business too. Like that's another thing is, as entrepreneurs, the vast majority of people that are entrepreneurs are hard workers, and that's how they get there, right? But oftentimes we find ourselves working in the business rather than working on it. And that was the kind of the same trap we'd gotten ourselves into. But whenever we had, our first our first employees, we were able to kind of transition. And in that year, we saw our business grow from 1.2 million to 3.6 million. But what also happened there was one of our buddies who was into digital marketing. I'd literally never had any interest in digital marketing at all or anything like that. He came by and he was like, hey man, he's like, this is super cool operation. Like I was just explaining how it worked. And he was like, you should make a course for this. Like I guarantee people would want to know how to do it. And we didn't actually believe that was, we didn't believe people would, care. But he was really convincing. And it was like, all right, then we'll try it, man. Like we'll make a course. And we didn't even expect to sell it. Like really, you know what I mean? I remember our first launch, we were all like sitting and at Eric's house, and it was like, yeah, hell, if somebody buys one, we're going to crack this bottle of champagne. If we sell 5, we're going to crack a bottle of Cristal and just have fun, because that's, it's just proof of concept at that point. And I think we sold like 145 courses on that first launch. And it was mind-boggling because, not only now did we have feedback from our own business, we were starting to get feedback from all these awesome people that had, taken that chance on us. And we were able to quickly evolve content and do things like that. And we had a really, really our first batch of students was incredibly successful. And it was just because, we were, I think a lot of course makers, and I don't think it usually starts out this way, is they get away from the core business, right? And they focus on the course side. And that just wasn't, that's not us. Like we're, this is our everyday business we're involved in. It helped us to grow with them. But yeah, it was that little turn of events, just having somebody come in and see something that we didn't see, that led to us getting into that space for sure.
It seems like almost all of the incredible things that you've been able to accomplish have been very relationship driven. Like when you were still working, and your friend quit his 6-figure job, it was the relationship with him that was like, hey, what are you doing? That kind of sparked the interest. And then the relationship with that key manufacturer kind of helped you define like where you wanted to be in this whole e-commerce space. And then, the relationship with that gentleman, the digital marketer, came in and said, you should create a course. Do you feel like relationships have really been one of the most important things? Like, how do you feel about that?
I don't think it's even close. I think that, we're all limited in our beliefs and what we're able to accomplish. Like you can be the hardest worker in the world, but if you're not willing to work with other people, there's only so much you can get done, right? And it's just that same concept. And I love to surround myself with smarter people, and it's not just to steal their ideas or what have you. I love I love the challenge that they present, right? They always push you into new ideas and new things and new challenges. And likewise, that's what I like to do with them. So yeah, it's 100%. I mean, everything about our business has been relationship based, even to that first launch. Like, it's kind of a crazy story with the first time we launched our course. At the time, we didn't have a payment processor. We didn't have a list. We didn't have a client base. Nobody had ever heard of us. And so the story about how we were able to launch and be pretty successful that first time is, there's a really popular guy in the space. I think Chris Green. He's an amazing dude. And he wrote the book called Retail Arbitrage. And I reached out to Chris and I was like, hey man, I know you have no idea who I am. And but I just want to tell you that, number one, you've influenced me way more than you can imagine. And I told him how we got started. And one of the first books that we bought, after we saw that proof of concept, we wanted to learn more. And the first book we bought was his book called Retail Arbitrage. And when I sent him the message, I also sent him a screenshot of that, of where we had bought that book on Amazon in 2011. And it's like right before we decided to make the jump at full time. And that's kind of what gave us the confidence to do it, is seeing that somebody else could do it full time. So whenever, I was like, here's what our business is and how it's evolved. I would love to share that with other people. And I don't have the audience to do it, but I would, if possible, I'd love to work with you on it. Would you be interested in checking it out? If you think it's great, share it, or we could come up with something. And if not, just that's cool. I won't be upset at all. And he checked it out and really liked what he saw. And that's how we got started. And we didn't have a payment processor. We didn't have an email client or anything like that when we sold our first course, and we did a 6-figure launch. So it's been pretty cool. And it's, like you said, it all boils back down to relationships and being able to, to talk to people and just provide value, but value both ways, I think.
How do it seems like when you reached out to that gentleman who wrote Retail Arbitrage, it seems like that was a very organic relationship, that it was just a great fit, right? Because y'all had evolved in that really cool way. And, he provided value to you early with the book. You of course provided value to him by buying the book. And then, you told him a story, and then he wanted to participate. And, however that happened, it happened. How do you recognize, or how do you go about entering into those relationships? Like, what is your philosophy on going out there and building those relationships? How do you do it?
No, it's for me, it's kind of, we have a saying around the office, and it's, you don't know what you look like until you get your picture took, right? And we take action. And if I see somebody doing something cool, like, I just want to talk to them about it. And I'm happy. And a lot of it's just being willing to be transparent, right? And it's, when I reach out to somebody and start trying to talk to them about something I'm interested in, like, I love giving back too. So it's, I'm happy to share my experiences and just talk at that deeper level. So it's, I feel like people make the whole networking thing a lot harder than it is. It's just like, all you have to do, in my opinion, is just be authentic and be transparent with who you are. And just try to provide value. Like with Chris, it's like, I wanted him to look at the course, but ultimately, he was, that was a JV launch. So it went significantly better than he expected too. He's been our number one affiliate for a long time now. And it's just because, he was our first affiliate too. But it's just about value for me. I feel like if you reach out to people, with the intention to, I just want to help people, I think things work out.
I love what you said about being really transparent about who you are, because if you're not in a good place, and if you're not totally honest and transparent about that place, then that could be one of the biggest roadblocks in my opinion, because people know, like I feel like we all have this like internal radar where we can kind of pick up if something just doesn't feel right. We may not even be able to articulate it fully, but we can pick it up. And I guess where my question really lies there, and I'm fascinated by this topic, is how do you really know who you are? In order to be transparent about who you are, you have to know who you are. So how do you get there? How did you arrive at that place?
No, for me, like that's a deep question, but it really is. It's about motive, right? It's I think if you and this is what we teach people in our course. It's like if you're reaching out to a brand to just set up an account, that's your goal. It's like I just want to set up an account. Like ultimately, people like that tend to fail, and it's because it's very self motivated, right? But if you can reach out to somebody um, and just be yourself, just be honest with who you are in your position. It's not about trying to prove who you are. It's I think there's a lot of that too. Is we all want validation as humans, and if I'm whenever I'm talking to somebody, I'm fine. I'm fine not being the smartest guy, and it's cool with me. I'm fine reaching out to somebody hat in hand and just being myself and from that learning position and realizing that wow, I'm taking something away here and I definitely want to give something back. So I think it's about motivation, what your motivations are, and um, your ability to be your ability to be wrong and to not be have to prove yourself all the time, right? Um, I think that was, realistically, I think that's the hardest part of asking for help, isn't it? It's being vulnerable and saying that I don't necessarily know how to do this. And I think that a lot of people try to stay away from that feeling rather than just being, honest, open, transparent and developing those friendships and network. It's not just friendships. There's all kinds of relationships that happen when you do that. It's like personal or professional, like just being able to do that in life will, I think, helps people um, succeed.
I love that you started talking about vulnerability of being like, hey, I don't know how to do this, or I need help, or
Sure.
whatever it is that you're reaching out for. I love that. And I think that is really powerful. I also think it takes a lot of self-awareness to understand like what you actually need help in. Because if you don't realize like who you are, what you're good at, what you're not good at, then it's hard to really ask for help because you may not even be sure like what you need help in and what you need to ask for, right? So how did you really get clear on like what your strengths were, what your weakness or what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, and like who you are really fundamentally at your core?
Well, no, it's in relation to that course, for example, it was looking for what we had to really just dial into to what made it work, right? And it's understanding when I'm talking to somebody about it, the value that it provides or whatever. And it's, for us, it wasn't like we're not great at running a business. That's not it. We, at the time, we understood that we had developed an incredible sourcing model and an incredible way to approach brands. Like that was the difference in our model and everybody else's model at the time is what we were trying to teach people is to approach people from a point of value, from a point of helping. So it's like, as far as I don't know how, I don't know if there was like a light bulb moment where it's, you have that kind of self-awareness. And maybe that's like, maybe that's less common in some people, but for us, it's I don't know. I've just never had a problem admitting what I'm not good at. I've never had a problem looking at it. I can look at a situation. I can be like, oh, I'm great at this. I'm great at this. I'm terrible at this, and be ultimately fine with that. And like even when you get into it, it's like it's even more important when you start scaling your business, right? It's like just launching it that has that component, but every part of your life will have that aspect. And it's for us, for example, it's I'm not good at accounting. So that was one of the things that we had to outsource if we want to grow our business. Like we had to outsource it. The same thing. It's whenever we hired those first employees, my goal was to literally make them just better than us at every aspect that they were working on. So it's like you pour all your energy into them, you continually challenge them. and things like that. And it's because you realize that that's a necessity for scaling, right? Is being able to, it's not even just about what you're bad at or what you're bad at. It's about being able to empower other people to give yourself that boost, right? It's not just strictly, there are things that I hire people for that I'm actually good at. But it's realizing that I can be better with them, or be better with the new situation.
As you've now brought on more employees and gotten more clear about, okay, y'all are doing this, you're doing that, you're doing this, I'm doing this. What do you find are like those? What do you find are those things that only you can do?
That's a great question. It's actually pretty interesting too, because our perspective is that I want to fire myself in every single role in my business, and it's not close. Like that was the difference in Dan in 2012 and 2013, when he was running around making great money, but relatively hating his life. Like I didn't have the freedom, I didn't have the time to spend with my family, all those things, and you just have to learn to let go, right? So it's I don't know, it's tough. It's just a tough situation to be able to realize that you're not as important. You need to make yourself less important, right? And it's that's the one thing, is how do you get people to invest in your business? It's about truly empowering them, right? So at this point in our business, on the Amazon side of our business, I work about an hour a week in that business, if that. And it's more of, we have a weekly meeting, and we, I go over what the employees talk about. I help them formulate game plans. If they need help, like, I'll coach beyond that. But at this point, our employees are so empowered, and we have great processes, great systems in place, that it's more just about letting them do it. So as far as I'm concerned, I don't feel like there's beyond being a coach and motivator in my business, like, that's my role. I don't have a physical role in the business of, if I don't do these things, it will fail, because we've literally outsourced all components, or automated all components of it.
That's amazing. I love that. And that was so important to me with the show of like, I realized the thing that I need to be doing is what we're doing right now, which is like, be on the show, talking to incredible people like yourself, and like actually create the content. Like,
yep.
That's what I want to do, and that's what I need to do, right? But all the other stuff, you could train other people to do that. I mean, that you could very systematically create a process that other people could follow and do that part for you, so that you don't have to do it. And like, I've gotten to that point now in the show. And by the way, shout out to the team, who's watching and listening. I love y'all so much, and thank you for everything you do. But like, it is amazing, and it is so empowering, and just the clarity that I've gotten from being able to do that is it's insane. It's amazing. It's amazing.
For sure. You actually touched on something really important that I think gets overlooked a lot, right? And it's, we want to talk about training and empowering and stuff like that, but if you don't have systems, and I've suffered this folly. If you don't have systems, as soon as that person leaves, you start from square one. And that happened, with our original employees. Is eventually, one of the kids was in college, and he went on to go do whatever his career. And but like, we'd spent all this energy and training and teaching, and he was truly amazing at what he did. And but whenever he left, we had to literally start from day one again. And it's like, as you start to pull back and remove yourself from the business, it gets so much harder to train people. Like, training him whenever I was involved every single day was super easy, right? Because I knew everything. I knew, go do this, go do this, go do this. These are the important critical factors in the business. But as you start to scale back, you start looking at different stuff. And at this point, we weren't, we were still working quite a bit in the business, but I wasn't working on the same stuff necessarily that he was on. So it actually that was awful. Like, it definitely hurt our business quite a bit when that happened. And to prevent that, what we focused on, because you just learn from mistakes, and we didn't start out business guys. Like, we didn't start out trained. Like, that's the thing. You learn as you go, and you just take action, and you adapt as the best you can. So whenever that happened to us, it was like, whoa, this really sucks. Like, what am I going to do now? And how do I prevent it in the future? And we started doing a lot of research, and it was really, develop processes, and it's not just a training strategy, right? Like, processes are great for a lot of reasons. Like, if employees can go back to them and reference them, just to make sure that they're doing things right. And ultimately what we saw, like, we did that. It took months. It took literal months to create processes for everything in our business. And we made videos of doing individual tasks and like subsets of processes. Like, it's pretty cool. But ultimately what it did is it made it made it far easier to start training employees, but it also made our finished product quite a bit better. Like, whenever you have a true process, and it's not just, do this and this, word of mouth processes and written defined processes that you train somebody on are two very different things. And whenever people are following those written processes or those, because ideally that's the best way to do something, right? Like, whenever you write a process, ultimately that's where you land, is the best way to do it. And if that is the best way to do it, it'll bring so much more consistency and a better quality to your product, your final product, that it changes there too. It's not just about the training anymore.
One of the things that I've also found too is that, because I kind of went down the same road of, okay, this person just left, and now it's like, okay, wait, now I have to do these things again. There's a void here. And then you bring somebody else in and they don't know what to do yet. And you're like, oh no, I still have to do it, and I have to teach them how to do it. And so I literally know exactly what you're talking about when you say it takes months to write this stuff out, because I went through every single piece of the process, and like, I took screenshots, I did videos, I built this master, like a manual. And when I was done, and the whole reason I'm talking about this is because the coolest part was, once you then hand that manual to somebody else and they start doing it, they actually start to point out ambiguities. They start to point out flaws or gaps or things that need to be improved or that could be improved. So just by having a process, you have this system that is like a self-correcting and self-improving mechanism within your business, which is totally epic. And I never even thought that was going to be a thing. Did you find it was similar for you?
Oh, 100%. And it's, that's the thing, is you create the best process you have at the time, right? But over time, it's that there's things that change. There's different things that the people doing it every day learn. And that's part of empowerment, right? It's like, with our employees, we really do try to empower them to be able to do, we give them an extreme level of ownership within their jobs. So yeah, absolutely. Like, you definitely see that along the way, and it's, even today, like literally even now, those processes get reviewed. They get reviewed weekly and updated all the time, just as they're doing new things and learn about a new strategy or a way to make it more defined. Like, it does. You're exactly right. It rather than just being, something that's passed along word of mouth, it becomes the literal baseline for your employees. And as baselines, they only go up. Like, if you set a solid baseline, it only gets better as people learn how to do it better.
So I'm curious, because I'm interested, with the size of your organization and the various different things that you're doing, that weekly review and update process. Like, how do the iterations get reviewed and accepted? Like, do your employees like submit files or make comments on something of like, hey, this needs to be improved here, and then somebody comes and checks it? Like, how does that actually work logistically?
No, it's like a lot of our whenever we assign tasks, like our VA team, our virtual assistants, follow those tasks, and our team's constantly looking for efficiency. So like, we monitor tasks through softwares like Hubstaff and things like that. And as they see efficient levels of efficiency changes, they just incorporate them in. It's not like a formal review process. It's just like, we don't let people don't just do things in our business. They tend to follow the process. And over time, like they say, you're able to adapt those processes to be better and more efficient.
That's interesting. Because that made me think of like, it would be really cool to almost automate that iteration process where you could, you know, maybe y'all have already done it, but I'm just thinking like it would be really cool to have the people who are doing it like maybe submit a log or submit something, like document it somehow, and then there's like somebody who comes back and reviews it and checks it and then adds it to the manual, and then it can grow over time, and that would make it an autonomous self-correcting and
I
self-improving
mean, for, relatively speaking, it does do that. Like it's not, there isn't a formal process for it, but that's part of just empowering your employees. Like we try to go way above and beyond with our employees. And it's because, I don't want them just to come here for a paycheck. Like I want them to love what they do. I want them to, and it's funny because I was talking to somebody earlier about this concept. It's like, when you pour all this energy and into employees, what happens if they leave? And it's like, what if they want to go do it on their own? It's like, well, great. Like if I've given them that much knowledge and that's what they're passionate about, like I'm perfectly okay with that. I have my processes in place to do it again and to get somebody up to speed. And if I've given them that level of satisfaction, like that I want it for them. But for those that don't have that entrepreneurial bug, like, it's a lot easier to be an employee than an employer.
Yes.
And, some people just don't want it. It's not that they're not smart enough. It's not that, they couldn't do it. It's just they don't want it. Like I can think of several people within my own business that are they're smart, way smarter than me, but they I'm thinking of one guy in particular, and it's just that's not what he's looking for in his life. Like he loves and he's passionate about making improvements in his department, and he loves the bonuses and all the accolades that we give him and just cheer him on, like. But it's, he has no aspirations to be a business owner. He just doesn't want to do it because there's a lot more obligation as a business owner, right? It's like, I'm not, whenever it's just me, I have, if I fail, that sucks and it sucks for me, but, relatively speaking, it's me and my family are the only ones affected. But now as a business owner, like if I fail, I affect the lives of all my employees, their families, there's a lot more there, and it requires you to be a lot more diligent, than I think some people want to be. So, yeah, it's that's kind of our philosophy is we really do just focus on the empowerment side, and I think you get the best result. Like, you're talking about the autonomous correction, and it's why do they do it? And it's because they just want to be better at their jobs, because they know that being better at their jobs helps us. They know that being better at their jobs helps them, because we don't overlook it. That's the one thing I'm great at in my business is I'm great at giving credit, and I'm great at I'm great at being a cheerleader.
That's amazing. And I love what you said about some people who, they've been with you so long, they learn it, they're passionate about it, and they do go off and do their own thing. And that's amazing. That's amazing. Like I've literally had very intense conversations with everybody on my team of like, what do you want to do with your life? Where do you want to go? Like, what are your aspirations, and how can I help you get there? Because like, I want to make sure that the people who are helping me get to where I want to go, that I can help them get to where they want to go. And, it would be great if that's sticking with me for the long run. And,
sure,
it's also great if that means helping me out for a little while and going to do their own thing. And I can maybe help them in some way. But yeah, I love that's your philosophy. And I think that's really powerful. And it probably leads to an amazing culture within your organization.
That's actually, the employees, that's the thing that they buy into, right? Is our culture. Like if you ask any one of our employees, just how it is to work here, they tell you they've never seen they've never seen a place like this. Like, it's just because they're valued at all times. They are, and whenever they mess up, like that's another thing. That's another part of empowering people, right? It's like, you cannot just, you can't kill, you can't go crazy when somebody makes a mistake. Like I want my employees to make mistakes because it shows me they're taking action. and I can work with action. I can't work with somebody who's not taking action. So from that perspective, like, you have to empower the good and the bad, and be willing to accept it and learn from it every time. Like, I can tell you countless stories of mistakes that our teams made, that's cost us thousands of dollars. And we've never just gotten upset and gotten fired up over that. It's like, I'm significantly more likely to get fired up over somebody not working and not taking chances and not trying.
That's amazing. Ben, as you've been through this journey over the last probably
8
almost
years.
a decade now.
Yeah. It's
That's
crazy.
Amazing. As you've been on this journey, what are some of the most powerful things that you've learned about yourself?
It's always been an evolving process, right? It's like, just that it's that level of self-awareness. And originally, when I first started my business, it was very, very hard for us to give up control to employees. Like, that wasn't my philosophy in the beginning, was empowering people. My philosophy in the beginning was, I need to work harder. And as you do that, like, you realize there's just a limit, right? There's a limitation. How long I can go, like, how much I can accomplish. And the biggest revelation for us has literally been the value of other people, and the value that relationships can bring, and the value that you can build within your own organization just by empowering them. And like I said, it's not just the good; it's the bad too. You accept the bad, and you don't. And it's always funny when somebody makes a mistake, and they're just like, oh, and that's like the first time they bring it up to us, and it's like, cool, man, like, it's all right. Like, let's talk about how it happened. Let's look at our processes and see where they broke down, and let's go from there, man. But you're all right. Like, just go chill out, and we can have this discussion when you're listening to this or whatever. It's just about accepting that people can mess up, and it still is it was done with the right intention. So, I think a lot of my growth has been with people personally, and just learning to be more adaptive to different personalities and things like that too.
It's amazing to me how almost all of the extraordinarily successful people that I've talked to, including yourself, see like the thing that has been like the biggest learning thing typically is not ever a hard skill. It's almost always a soft skill. It's like more self-awareness, realizing you need to take better care of yourself, realizing you need to work better with people, like you were saying, being more adaptive and working a little bit better with people. That to me is so amazing, that it's the soft skills. It's not, can I be the best freaking coder in the world, although that's important. It's the soft skills that are the most important.
It's crazy, because it's like, I agree with you, but it's, if you realize, when you think about it, it's what really empowers you to be able to grow in your business. It's the things that come from the heart, right? It's like, you can always learn. If you're dedicated, you can learn. And it's not about these learned skills, and it's about just learning how to be compassionate, just learning how to accept mistakes, learning how to let yourself be, why do a lot of people never really get started or have a lot of trouble in the beginning? It's because they're so afraid of making a mistake. Like, empowering yourself to make a mistake is a big deal too, because that for us, that was, we got into that comfortable rut, and that's what took so long to get out of it. And it took us, we knew within that first 2 years that we needed to transition away from retail arbitrage, and it took us another almost full 2 years to do it. And it's because we knew everything we needed to know about retail arbitrage. We could always make money with it. And it's like, why jeopardize that on something we don't know? And it's just, I think a lot of that is just giving yourself the runway to be like, man, I'm not perfect. Like, I can make a mistake, and it's okay. And as long as I'm doing it for, as long as I'm doing it with the right reasons, and I'm taking some level of precaution, that's as good as it gets. Like, I want, it's crazy now because I want people to make mistakes, because it really shows me that they're kind of pushing the boundaries of where they're at, as opposed to just being terrified to make them.
I love what you said about that. And I also think it's important to realize like, and the only reason I'm saying this is that it was important for me to realize it,
Sure.
that like you're working so hard and you're putting in the hours, you're doing the best that you can. And at the end of the day, like that's all you can do. And
That's
you're
it.
like, and you're okay. Like at some point, it was pretty recently, like a couple months ago. I mean, I'd really been burning the candle at both ends, and I decided like I needed to just take a walk. And so I was just walking around in my neighborhood, and I just remember I was listening to this audiobook by Les Brown. And I just remember he said something, and I had to pause it, and I had to just literally say out loud to myself, like, Ben, like, it's all right. Like you're doing good, man. Like you're all right. Cause I was getting fired up about something, I'm a very
That's it.
passionate person. I was like, it's all good. And like, I think that's really important too, because I feel like we can be very, very critical of ourselves.
For sure. And if you do that, like you're never, if you're constantly critical of yourself to the point that, it holds you back. Like it's
Right.
not being, that's not being critical. That's just, that's a problem. Like it's okay to hold yourself to a high standard, but you want to hold yourself to a standard you can control.
Mm-hmm.
And what can I can control? What can I control? I can control my effort. I can control the time I dedicate to something, but I can't control the outcome. Like, it's funny because like all of us in the office are gamers to some degree. Like we all play poker and other games like that. It's just, you get that mindset of you can play a hand perfectly and still lose. And I can't control the outcome necessarily, but I can control, I can only worry about the things I can control. And that's the standard I want to hold myself to, right? Is I want to work hard. I want to give it my best effort, and I want to um, just be there, right? I want to be in the moment and just give myself the opportunity to succeed and be willing to learn from any mistakes that happen along the way. And that's all you can do. And you're exactly right. It's like you throw your hands up. And it's like, man, it's okay. It's like I'm giving it all I have to just be able to. It's not to succeed. It's to be able to learn from the experience, right?
I love that. There's this book. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor E. Frankl, and that is one of the most powerful books I've ever read. And I'm Jewish, and it talks about his experiences in the concentration camps during the Holocaust. And so it really spoke to me on many different levels.
Sure.
But one of the things that he said was one of the realizations that he had while he was there was that there are very few things that you actually can control. Like at the end of the day, in the worst possible situation, the most inhumane, the most cruel, awful situations, sometimes you can't even control your actions. Sometimes you can't control, you definitely can't control, what life is doing to you at that point. And by the way, normally I believe that life is happening for me, not to me. But just in the book, he was saying the one thing you can control is what you think about it, and like your reaction to what is happening. And I just thought that was profound. I thought that was
Sure.
profound.
No, I mean you said something pretty amazing right there too, and it's life is happening for me, not to me, and that's that's a big mindset shift that I've definitely went on that journey over the past few years, and it's you want to it's hard to embrace sometimes the negative stuff, right? It's like no, that's there's actions that brought us here, and there's things to learn from this, but it's just about um, being able to do that, right? It's about being able to understand that it's not happening to you, that there's it's happening for you. It's happening. It causes there's another door opening there. There's a set of actions that brought us here that we can learn from, or something. It's never just by, I don't think things just happen by chance. Like I don't it's very rare that they do. That most often it's a, what we get is part of the, the theoretical seed that we've sown, so to speak.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So at this point in your journey, in your life, I mean, you've accomplished so much, you've helped so many people, you've created so much wealth. It's really incredible. What's next for you? I mean, what is there in your opinion, like, what is the next step for you? And I'm really interested to understand both like what's next, but also like from the perspective of who are you working to become at this point?
No, it's ultimately what's next for us is we just want to keep empowering entrepreneurs, and for me, that's a lot of that is not just a lot of that's for my kids too. They get, my kids have got to see a massive shift. McKenna wasn't. It's funny. McKenna wasn't born when I had a job, and Marissa was 1 year. The last time, she's never actually known me to have a traditional job. And it's awesome because, like, as she grows and as she learns, because she's 8 now, and I explained to her, and it's like, she's like, "What do you do, Dad?" And I was like, I just mostly just try to help people create businesses. I mostly try to help people just live a better life. And that's it for me. It's like, I just, I'm super, super passionate about helping people live a better life. And I know what it's like on the other side. I know what it's like to feel underappreciated, to feel like, you're working and it's, you're working for somebody else. And it's, I'm not saying that like a negative thing. I'm saying it that, it's not appreciated. It's not valued the way it should be. And I think that's, for the vast majority of people, like you don't have to, most people don't need a ton of money to be happy. They just need that freedom, right? They need to feel appreciated. And I love empowering people to do that through whatever means. I don't care if it's through my course. I don't care if it's, hopefully somebody hears this and just gives themselves the freedom to fail and goes and tries something. Like, I don't care how they do it so much as I care that people try to be happy. I love seeing happy people. I love seeing success stories.
That's amazing. One of the things I think about a lot is somebody like Bill Gates or Elon Musk, or just a total badass and rock star financially. They're constantly learning and they're constantly trying to improve themselves and to grow themselves. So I'm curious about, like, how do you structure or plan or go about growing? Like, do you have a systematic approach to it? Do you, like, some people I talk to, they have like a 12-month book reading schedule that they know what they're going to do. Like, how do you go about that?
No, it's just, we plan internally, and it's just about a lot of it has been about, over the past couple of years, it's kind of shifted. It's went from, this is a plan to grow our business and make money. And this to, now this is the plan to have the biggest effect and make us happy. And that's kind of what I've learned along the way, is like being happy, just being happy equates to success. Right. And it's like, however you want to define success. I've made more money doing less work and being more happy than I ever did just trying to work doing something I didn't like. And, I feel like putting people in those same positions, and it's, how do you develop those crazy, awesome relationships? Right. And it's just by, helping somebody. And, I've had so many business opportunities that have opened up just because of our course. Like, we work with students all the time on tons of different projects because, they've taken that initiative. They've realized that change in their life, and it's given us the opportunity to really create those relationships. So, but for us, it's, that's it, is we've really just dialed into what makes us happy. And I couldn't tell you, necessarily what our next big property is, or what our next big, material or what have you. But I can tell you it will be 100% geared towards helping people. And that's because that's the part we're passionate about.
Well, I love that formula of more happiness, less work, more money. That's like, that's definitely a good way to go about
That's
it.
that's the right thing to try, right? Is be happy and make more money.
That's awesome. Well, Dan, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today. I've truly enjoyed the conversation. Hopefully you have as well.
Absolutely, brother.
Um, I do have one more question for you. Then we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Um, and this is a personal question that I like to, honestly, I really like to ask everybody because I think it's important, at least from my perspective.
Sure.
I'm 24 years old, and I really want to know what question I should be asking you, like specifically you, that I just wouldn't think to ask.
That's a great question. It's like it's. Hmm. I I don't have a great answer for this because I'll be honest with you. You dug a lot. Most people ask a lot more like just the straight business oriented questions, and you went a lot deeper. Like you actually asked a lot of the questions that I would have. I'll be perfectly honest. Um, I mean, I don't have a great answer. Like you really did. You dug in there, brother, and I think you got about the best. This has been definitely one of the better interviews I've ever done with anybody.
Well, thank you very much. I really do appreciate that. Maybe I could try rephrasing the question a little bit.
Possibly, yeah.
Um, if you could go back and give advice to yourself at 24 years old, what would you say?
Oh, I love this question now. It really would be just to embrace partnerships. Like, and that was, I told you earlier, that was the one thing we avoided early. And it made my life a lot harder than it had to be. Like we made fine money, but we worked ourselves to death and it was literally years of not growing, right? It was literally years of just getting by. And as soon as we started investing in people and partnerships and relationships and things like that, that's when our whole world changed. It wasn't, it wasn't more work that we did or anything like that. It was literally learning new perspectives. And if anything, if that's the one thing I could pass on to somebody else, it would be focus on relationships and partnerships. They are so much bigger than you could possibly imagine.
Well, Dan, thank you again so much for coming on the show today. I'm extremely grateful to be able to have shared this time with you. Your time is very valuable. So thank you very much for sharing that with me.
Awesome, man. I love coming on here, and I love I love a lot of the questions you asked. I think you deliver a lot of value to your audience.
Thank you, sir. And to those wonderful people who are watching and listening, I want to say thank you very much. Y'all's time is very valuable as well. And so I'm very grateful that y'all would choose to share with us today. I love y'all very much, and I will see you on the next episode. Take care now.